Mike's hot, camera's hot, launch.
Okay. So for the beginning of the tape, please tell us your name and your affiliation with organizations.
I am Charlie Eckberg, and currently I'm involved with Get Oil Out. It's my 27th year on their board of directors. I am also on the Dean's Council at the Bren School of Environmental Science and Management at UCSB, where primarily I try to create a context of a bridge back to the Santa Barbara community and work with the students on a regular basis. I have been involved with the Community Environmental Council and just very active in environmental issues in our community.
Tell us, turning back to 1969, how old were you? What were you doing at the time?
I was 20. I was in 1969, when the oil spill took place in Santa Barbara, I was a 20-year-old student at UCSB. I actually was living right on the beach, my apartment, my room, and so as the black waves came into the Isla Vista area, I had the first-hand experience of living, breathing, watching, and experiencing what was the devastation on a regular basis. As you're probably aware, the oil would move around, and it was a long event, went on for, I believe, well over a year, with the releases taking place, blowing out again. And so the oil would some days be gone, and then it would come back, and you just, you'd wake up and you'd smell it again, or you'd realize you weren't hearing the waves, because now the oil was so thick on the waves, they just deadened the sound. And these were the things that were really just ingrained in my experience, that and the dead and dying animals.
Do you remember where you were when you first heard about it, or you first became aware, how you first became aware of it, that first moment?
You know, 41 years later, I don't know where I was, but I believe it was more than likely that I was hearing about the event, which was directly off of Santa Barbara, and I'm out at UCSB, which is some distance, 10 miles or more. And I really think that it was when the oil started coming ashore where I was that I really was obviously drawn into the situation. That's my best recollection as to kind of how it came. It was in my face. And it wasn't something you were going to avoid or turn a blind eye to. It was all over the beach.
How did you feel?
Oh, I felt sick. And it really was a combination of the air was foul, you were seeing these things, but also it was something that had not been experienced. I mean, this was, to my understanding, the first time that there had been such an event, and it happened in the United States, and now it was happening in our community. And it was beyond understanding, and it was a really black gunk. It was an oil that, it was oppressive. And then the death that was associated with it, because we were seeing, as you go down, the birds, and they would be tarred, and they would be struggling, and they would die. And even when you tried to take them to the receiving centers, you knew that this was very small chance that there was going to be any survival, and that was the reality. The techniques were just brand new. How do you deal with something like this? People didn't know. And so everything that they tried, in my mind, seemed to be just a failure. It was a stopgap. It was a wish, a hope, and a prayer. And we didn't have much success. And so this was part of it that people don't understand. It wasn't like a beginning and an end to this oil blowout. There were periodically these news releases that they plugged the spill, and then it would break loose again, and you would go through it again, and the oil would move around and be out to the islands. It'd be up towards Pismo Beach and be down towards the south, and then that spill would come towards Isla Vista. And you know, it wasn't like we had satellite imagery. You weren't following this other than certainly what were the aircraft and such, but it was a story that galvanized the community. And as a young person, it certainly was a different experience, because now in the classes, we were talking about it, and there were some really wonderful educators, and I think that it was my opportunity. I was in Rod Nash's class at the time, and so I was getting a lot of that perspective from him firsthand as a student, and it was part of what you just layered on, and it became part of my culture.
Cut. We're going to have to make a slight adjustment. You're